Welcome to the ancient Greek story of creation, a tale that has captivated humanity for over 3,000 years. This is not just a story of how the world began, but a profound meditation on order emerging from chaos, on the eternal struggle between generations, and on the forces that shape our universe. Long before Homer sang of heroes, before philosophers pondered the nature of reality, the ancient Greeks told this story around fires, passing down through generations the sacred knowledge of how everything came to be. Tonight, we journey back to the very beginning, to a time before time, when nothing existed but the void itself. This is the story of chaos and cosmos, of titans and Olympians, of love and war, creation and destruction. It is the story of how the familiar world we know today emerged from the primordial darkness. Our tale comes to us primarily through Hesiod's Theogony, written in the 8th century BCE, though elements appear in countless other sources throughout antiquity. As we begin, remember that to the ancient Greeks, this was not mere mythology. This was sacred history, the fundamental truth about the nature of existence itself. In the beginning was chaos. Not chaos as we understand it today, not disorder or confusion, but the primordial void, the gaping emptiness that existed before all things. Chaos was not nothing, but rather the space in which everything would come to be. It was potential itself, pregnant with infinite possibility. From this void, the first beings emerged not through creation, but through a kind of cosmic birthing. These were not gods as we might imagine them, with human forms and personalities, but abstract principles given divine essence, the fundamental forces that would shape reality. First came Gaia, the Earth herself, not merely the planet we stand upon, but the principle of solid, nurturing foundation. Gaia was broad-breasted, wide-bosomed, the eternal seat and source of all life. She was mother before there were children, home before there were inhabitants. At the same moment emerged Tartarus, the deep pit far beneath the earth. Tartarus was not merely a place, but a being, the darkest, deepest foundation of existence, as far below the earth as heaven is above it. Here would eventually be imprisoned the greatest threats to cosmic order. And then came Eros, not the cherubic love god of later tradition, but the primordial force of attraction and generation. Eros was the cosmic principle that would drive all creation, the irresistible force that compels unity, reproduction, and the continuation of existence. Without Eros, the universe would remain static, unchanging, dead. From chaos also emerged Erebus, the personification of darkness, and Nyx, the goddess of night. These twins represented the original state of the universe, dark, mysterious, and pregnant with hidden potential. Nyx was particularly powerful, one of the few beings whom even Zeus would later fear to cross. But the universe could not remain in eternal darkness. From the union of Erebus and Nyx came their opposite, Ether, the bright upper air, and Hemera, the day. For the first time, light entered the cosmos, and with it, the cycle of day and night was established. The first rhythm, the first pattern in the formless void. This was the first great principle of Greek cosmology, that opposites generate each other, that from unity comes duality, and from duality comes the infinite complexity of existence. Gaia, the earth, was not content to remain alone. Through her own will, for this was the age before sexual reproduction as we know it, she brought forth her first child, Uranus, the starry sky. Uranus was her equal in power, designed to cover her completely, to be an eternal dwelling place for the blessed gods. Uranus was not merely Gaia's son, but also her husband, a union that represented the fundamental marriage of earth and sky that makes all life possible. Their embrace was constant, eternal, the sky forever pressing down upon the earth in cosmic love. Gaia also bore the mountains, the high hills that pierce the sky, and Pontus, the sterile sea that rages without love. These were the basic geographical features of the world, born from the earth herself, the foundation upon which all future creation would rest. But it was from the union of Gaia and Uranus that the first true generation of gods was born, the 12 Titans. These were beings of immense power and beauty, representing the forces of nature in their most raw and untamed form. The male Titans were Oceanus, the world-encircling river; Coeus, the axis of intelligence; Creus, the pillar of the south; Hyperion, the father of light; Iapetus, the ancestor of humanity; and youngest and most cunning Cronus, who would reshape the cosmos. The female Titans, equally mighty, were Thea, the divine light; Rhea, the flowing one; Themis, divine law and order; Mnemosyne, memory itself; Phoebe, the bright intellect; and Tethys, the nurse of all waters. But Uranus and Gaia's fertility produced more than the beautiful Titans. They also bore 3 Cyclopes: Brontes, the thunderer; Steropes, the lightning flasher; and Arges, the bright one. These were master craftsmen, destined to forge the weapons that would determine the fate of the cosmos. Most terrible of all were the Hecatonchires, the 100-handed ones, Cottus, Briareus, and Gyges. Each possessed 50 heads and 100 arms of incredible strength. They were the ultimate weapons, beings of such power that their very existence threatened the stability of the universe. But Uranus, looking upon the Cyclopes and Hecatonchires, was filled with loathing and fear. These children were too powerful, too strange, too threatening to his rule. So he took them and thrust them back into Gaia's womb, hiding them in the deepest places of the earth, refusing to let them see the light. Gaia groaned under the burden of her imprisoned children, her body stretched and pained by their confinement. The mountains shook, the seas boiled, and the earth itself cried out in anguish. She loved all her children, even the monstrous ones, and couldn't bear their suffering. In her pain and rage, Gaia conceived a terrible plan. From her body, she drew forth gray adamant, the hardest substance in existence, and forged from it a great sickle with jagged teeth. Then she called her Titan children to her and spoke words that would echo through eternity. "My children, born of a sinful father, listen to me. Your father has wronged us terribly, and though he began this evil, I shall end it. Will one of you have the courage to punish him for his cruelty?" The Titans were afraid. Uranus was their father, the sky itself, supreme in power. All remained silent except the youngest, Cronus, whose name meant time, and who was destined to bring change to the unchanging cosmos. "Mother," said Cronus, "I will do this deed. I care nothing for our father, for he was the first to plan shameful actions." Gaia's heart rejoiced, and she hid Cronus in ambush, placing the serrated sickle in his hands and explaining exactly what he must do. Then came the evening, and Uranus approached, bringing night with him, longing for love and spreading himself over Gaia completely. At the crucial moment, Cronus reached out with his left hand, the sinister hand, and with his right seized the mighty sickle. Swiftly, he cut off his father's genitals and threw them behind him, severing forever the eternal union of earth and sky. The blood from Uranus's wound fell upon Gaia, and from these drops sprang new beings. The Erinyes, the Furies, were born, spirits of vengeance who would forever pursue those who committed crimes against their own blood. The giants emerged, mighty in war, and the Meliae, the ash tree nymphs who would become the mothers of the bronze race of men. But the severed genitals themselves fell into the sea, and around them the water foamed and frothed. From this divine foam, nurtured by the marriage of sea and sky, emerged the most beautiful of all goddesses, Aphrodite. Born from the masculine essence of heaven and the feminine, as Aphrodite rose from the waves, grass grew beneath her delicate feet. Eros and Himeros, love and desire, attended her from her birth, and she became the goddess who rules over the desires of gods and mortals alike. From an act of violence came perfect beauty. From separation came the force that draws all things together. With Uranus's castration, the age of primordial unity ended. No longer did sky lie constantly upon earth. The cosmos was now divided, structured, ordered. There was space between earth and heaven, room for other beings to exist and flourish. But with this separation came also the first divine crime, the first violence within the family of the gods. Cronus had freed his siblings, the Titans, and now he ruled as king of the universe. The age of Uranus was over. The age of Cronus had begun. But the first lesson of Greek mythology was already clear. Power gained through violence cannot last forever, and the sins of one generation inevitably pass to the next. With Uranus overthrown, Cronus became the supreme ruler of the cosmos. Under his reign, the world experienced its first golden age. This was a time of peace and plenty, when the earth brought forth its fruits without labor, when humans lived like gods, free from toil and sorrow. Cronus distributed power among his fellow Titans. Oceanus ruled the world-encircling river. Hyperion became lord of the sun and light, while others took dominion over various aspects of the natural world. It seemed that a stable, eternal order had been established. Cronus took as his wife his sister Rhea, the Flowing One, goddess of fertility and motherhood. Their union promised to continue the Titan line and ensure the stability of the cosmos. But the shadow of the past hung over their marriage, for Cronus had not forgotten the prophecy that would haunt his reign. As Uranus died from his wounds, he spoke a terrible prophecy. "Just as you have overthrown me, so shall one of your own children overthrow you. The sin you have committed against your father shall be visited upon you by your son." This prophecy consumed Cronus with fear and paranoia. He had gained power through violence against his father. Logic dictated that his own son would do the same to him. Every time Rhea bore a child, Cronus saw not a beloved offspring but a potential usurper, a threat to his reign. So when Rhea bore their first child, the goddess Hestia, Cronus did something that shocked even the other Titans. He seized the newborn infant and swallowed her whole, condemning her to the darkness of his belly. If his children could not exist, they could not threaten him. Rhea was horrified, but she was powerless against her husband's might. One by one, as she bore more children, Cronus devoured them all. Demeter, the grain goddess, Hera, the queen of heaven, Hades, lord of the underworld, and Poseidon, master of the seas. But the children did not die within Cronus's belly. Being immortal gods, they continued to grow and develop, trapped in darkness, waiting for their chance at freedom. Cronus had not solved his problem. He had merely delayed it, while increasing his own eventual punishment. After swallowing 5 children, Rhea could bear no more. When she became pregnant for the 6th time, she went secretly to her mother Gaia and her father Uranus, seeking their advice. "How can I save this child?" she pleaded, "and ensure that Cronus pays for his crimes against his father and his children?" Gaia told Rhea to flee to the island of Crete, to the sacred cave on Mount Dicte, where she could give birth in secret. Meanwhile, they would prepare a deception that would fool even the king of the Titans. In the deep cave, attended only by the spirits of the earth, Rhea gave birth to her 6th child, Zeus, whose name means bright sky, and who was destined to become the greatest of all gods. The infant's cries echoed through the cavern. but they were masked by the clashing of shields and spears as the Kurets, young warrior spirits, danced around the cave. But what of Cronus? Gaia had prepared the perfect deception. She took a great stone and wrapped it in swaddling clothes, making it look exactly like a newborn child. When Rhea returned to Cronus, she presented him with this false baby. Without hesitation, driven by his paranoid fear, Cronus seized what he thought was his sixth child and swallowed it whole. The stone sank into his belly alongside his 5 divine children, and Cronus believed himself safe once more. He did not know that his greatest enemy was already growing to manhood in a secret cave. In the sacred cave on Mount Dicta, the infant Zeus was raised in secret. The goat Amalthea nursed him with her milk, while the nymphs of Crete cared for his every need. Bees brought him honey, and eagles fed him nectar and ambrosia, the food of the gods. Whenever the divine child cried, the Kuredes would clash their spears against their shields and dance wildly, ensuring that no sound would reach the ears of Cronus. They were the first guardians of Zeus, protecting the future king of the gods through his most vulnerable years. Zeus grew with supernatural speed, as divine children do. Soon, he was no longer an infant, but a young man of incredible beauty and power. Lightning flickered around his hands, and when he spoke, thunder rumbled in the mountains. Even in youth, his divine nature was unmistakable. As Zeus reached maturity, he encountered Metis, daughter of Oceanus, and one of the wisest of all beings. Her name meant cunning intelligence, and she would play a crucial role in the liberation of Zeus's siblings. Some say she became his first love. All agree she became his most trusted advisor. It was Metis who devised the plan to free Zeus's brothers and sisters. She prepared a powerful emetic, a potion that would cause violent vomiting, and explained to Zeus how he might approach his father without being recognized. Disguising himself as a young cupbearer, Zeus approached Cronus's palace. The king of the Titans, seeing only a handsome youth, welcomed him into his service. Zeus bided his time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. At a great feast, Zeus served his father wine mixed with Metis's potion. Cronus, unsuspecting, drank deeply. Almost immediately, the magic took effect, and the king of the Titans began to vomit violently. First came the stone that had been swallowed last, still wrapped in its swaddling clothes. This stone Zeus would later set up at Delphi as a monument to his victory. But then came far more precious treasures. One by one, Zeus's brothers and sisters emerged from their father's throat, not as infants, but as full-grown gods of terrible beauty and power. Poseidon came forth with his trident, Hades with his helmet of invisibility, Hera with her royal bearing, Demeter with golden grain in her hair, and Hestia with the sacred flame. For the first time in their lives, the 6 children of Cronus stood together as free gods. They looked upon Zeus as their liberator and savior, and immediately acknowledged him as their leader. But they knew that their father would not surrender his throne without a fight. When Cronus recovered from his sickness and realized what had happened, his rage shook the foundations of the earth. He called upon his fellow Titans to arm themselves for war. The age of peace was ending. The greatest conflict in the history of the cosmos was about to begin. The war that followed would be called the Titanomachy, the War of the Titans. On one side stood the Old Order, Cronus and most of his fellow Titans, representing the primordial forces of nature in their raw, untamed form. On the other stood the new generation, Zeus and his siblings, who would bring order, justice, and civilization to the cosmos. The Titans made their stronghold on Mount Othrys, while Zeus and his siblings established themselves on Mount Olympus. Between these 2 peaks, the fate of the universe would be decided. The war would last for 10 years, shaking the very foundations of existence. The battles were beyond anything the world had ever seen. When the gods fought, mountains cracked, seas boiled, and the earth itself groaned under the impact of their divine weapons. Hyperion hurled the light of 1,000 suns, while Zeus answered with thunderbolts that split the sky. Not all Titans joined Cronus in his war. Oceanus, the world-encircling river, remained neutral, as did several of the Titanesses. Prometheus, son of Iapetus, even joined Zeus's side, bringing with him the gift of foresight that would prove crucial to the war's outcome. After 10 years of stalemate, Zeus consulted with his grandmother Gaia, who revealed the key to victory. Deep in Tartarus, still imprisoned since the beginning of time, were the Cyclopes and the Hecatonchires, beings of such power that they could tip the balance of any war. Zeus descended into the deepest pit of the underworld, past the gates of Tartarus, to where his uncles had been imprisoned for eons. He found them chained with unbreakable bonds, but their hearts still burned with hatred for Cronus, who had never freed them from their prison. Zeus broke their chains and promised them freedom and honor if they would join his cause. In gratitude, the Cyclopes immediately began forging the weapons that would win the war: thunderbolts for Zeus, a trident for Poseidon, and a helmet of invisibility for Hades. The Hecatonchires, the 100-handed ones, were even more valuable as allies. Each could hurl 100 boulders at once, creating devastating barrages that no enemy could withstand. They had been waiting eons for their revenge against the Titans. The final battle was apocalyptic in scope. The Hecatonchires hurled entire mountains at the Titans, while Zeus's thunderbolts lit up the sky like a second sun. The heat was so intense that the earth began to melt, and the primordial chaos seemed ready to return. At the climax of the battle, Zeus gathered all his power into one mighty thunderbolt and hurled it directly at his father. The blast was so powerful that it could be heard from the depths of Tartarus to the heights of heaven. Cronus fell, defeated. His reign finally ended. The defeated Titans were chained in Tartarus, as far below the earth as heaven is above it. The Hecatonchires became their eternal guards, ensuring that they could never again threaten the cosmic order. Only a few, like Oceanus and Prometheus, were spared this fate due to their neutrality or aid to Zeus. With his victory complete, Zeus ascended to the throne of heaven. The age of the Titans was over. The age of the Olympians had begun. But Zeus had learned from his father's mistakes. He would rule not through fear and oppression, but through justice and the consent of his fellow gods. Zeus's first act as king was to divide the cosmos fairly among his brothers. They cast lots to determine their domains. Zeus received the sky and became king of the gods. Poseidon took the seas and all waters, while Hades received the underworld and dominion over the dead. The earth itself remained common to all. One by one, the great Olympian gods took their places in the new cosmic order. Hera became Zeus's queen and goddess of marriage. Demeter ruled over agriculture and the harvest, while Hestia tended the sacred fire that burned at the heart of every home and city. Zeus's first official marriage was to Metis, the Titaness who had helped him defeat his father. But soon after their wedding, Zeus received a disturbing prophecy. Metis would bear 2 children, the second of whom would be a son destined to overthrow his father, just as Zeus had overthrown Cronus. Faced with the same dilemma that had driven his father to madness, Zeus made a fateful decision. When Metis was pregnant with their first child, he tricked her into becoming small and then swallowed her whole. But unlike his father's cruel act, this would lead to something unprecedented. Months later, Zeus began to suffer from terrible headaches. The pain grew so intense that he commanded Hephaestus, the smith god, to split open his skull with an axe. From the wound emerged Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare, born fully grown and armored from her father's head. Athena combined her mother's wisdom with her father's power, becoming one of the most important Olympian deities. The prophecy was fulfilled but transformed. Instead of overthrowing Zeus, she became his greatest supporter and advisor. By incorporating Metis into himself, Zeus had gained her wisdom while avoiding the fate that had befallen previous generations. Zeus took many other wives and lovers, each union adding to the divine family and the ordered cosmos. From Leto came the twin gods Apollo and Artemis, he the god of light, music, and prophecy, she the goddess of the hunt and the moon. Their births were difficult, as Hera's jealousy pursued Leto across the earth. With Mnemosyne, the titaness of memory, Zeus fathered the 9 muses, the goddesses who inspire all art, literature, and learning. Through them, the achievements of gods and mortals would be remembered and celebrated for all time. Not all of Zeus's children were born from his unions with others. Hera, jealous of Athena's birth from Zeus alone, gave birth to Hephaestus without a father. Though he was born lame and ugly, Hephaestus became the master craftsman of the gods, forging wonders in his volcanic workshops. Gradually, the full pantheon of Olympian gods was assembled. Ares became god of war, Aphrodite goddess of love, Hermes the messenger of the gods, and later Dionysus would join them as god of wine and ecstasy. Each had their domain, their responsibilities, and their role in the cosmic order. Under Zeus's wise rule, the world entered a new golden age. Humans lived in harmony with the gods, enjoying lives of peace and prosperity. The earth gave its fruits freely, and death came only as a gentle sleep when mortals had lived their full span of years. Zeus established the principles of justice and law that would govern both gods and mortals. Unlike the arbitrary rule of previous generations, his reign was based on cosmic order, divine justice, and the consent of the governed. The universe finally had not just power, but legitimate authority. But the story of creation was not complete with the establishment of the Olympian order. There remained the question of humanity. According to some tales, it was Prometheus, the far-sighted Titan who had aided Zeus, who created the first humans by molding them from clay and water. Athena, goddess of wisdom and crafts, breathed life into these clay figures, giving them souls and consciousness. Thus humanity was born from the collaboration of Titan wisdom and Olympian inspiration, embodying both the old and new orders of the cosmos. But humans were weak and helpless compared to the gods. Taking pity on his creations, Prometheus committed a great crime. He stole fire from heaven and gave it to humanity. With fire came all the arts of civilization, cooking, metalworking, and the ability to drive away the darkness. Zeus was furious at this theft, seeing it as a challenge to divine prerogative. He ordered that Prometheus be chained to a mountain in the Caucasus, where an eagle would eat his liver each day, only for it to regenerate each night. This torture would continue until a hero was born who could free him. As punishment for humanity's acceptance of the stolen fire, Zeus ordered the creation of the first woman. All the gods contributed to her making. Hephaestus shaped her from clay, Athena gave her skill in handicrafts, Aphrodite gave her beauty, and Hermes gave her a deceitful heart. She was called Pandora, all gifts. Pandora was sent to Earth with a sealed jar, which she was told never to open. But curiosity, implanted by the gods, proved too strong. When she opened the jar, all the evils of the world escaped: disease, death, war, famine, and countless sorrows that had never before troubled humanity. But when Pandora quickly closed the jar, one thing remained inside: hope. Thus, even in a world now filled with suffering and death, humans retained the ability to hope for better things, to strive and dream and never surrender to despair. From this point forward, human history would be marked by both greatness and tragedy. Heroes would arise who performed mighty deeds: Heracles with his 12 labors, Perseus slaying the Medusa, Theseus defeating the Minotaur. The Great War at Troy would showcase both human valor and human folly. And so the Greek creation story reaches its completion. From the primordial void of chaos emerged a cosmos of perfect order. Earth, sea, sky, and underworld each had their proper place and rulers. Gods and mortals knew their roles and relationships. The universe was no longer a place of random forces, but a harmonious whole. But the Greeks understood that this order was not static. The cosmos continues to evolve, new generations arise, and the great cycles of creation and destruction continue. The story of creation is never truly finished. It is an ongoing process in which gods and mortals, nature and culture, order and chaos continue their eternal dance. Today, when we look up at the night sky, we see the same stars that witness these cosmic events. The constellations tell the stories of the heroes and gods, eternal reminders of the great drama of creation. In every sunset and sunrise, in every storm and calm, in every birth and death, the ancient patterns continue. This is the gift of Greek mythology, not just stories of what happened long ago, but eternal truths about the nature of existence, the struggle between order and chaos, and the place of humanity in the vast cosmos. The creation may have been completed long ago, but its meaning continues to unfold with each passing day. Thank you for joining us on this journey from chaos to cosmos, from the primordial void to the ordered universe we inhabit today. The Greek creation myth remains one of humanity's most profound meditations on the origins of existence, the nature of power, and the eternal human quest for meaning and order. In these ancient stories, we find not just entertainment, but wisdom that speaks to every generation. The same forces that shaped the cosmos continue to shape our lives. The tension between order and chaos, the passing of power from generation to generation, the price of knowledge and the burden of choice. The gods may have established their eternal order, but the story continues in each of us as we create meaning from the chaos of existence and build our own cosmos of love, work, art, and dreams. From the ancient Greek understanding of creation, we learn that the universe is not a machine, but a living story, not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Every act of creation, whether it's writing a poem, raising a child, building a community, or simply choosing hope over despair, participates in the same cosmic process that brought forth the world from the primordial void. The flame that Prometheus stole for humanity still burns in every human heart that refuses to surrender to darkness. The wisdom of Athena continues to guide those who seek truth and justice. The beauty of Aphrodite still moves us to love and create. The power of Zeus reminds us that true authority comes not from force, but from the establishment of just order. These stories have been told for over 3,000 years, passed down from the ancient Greeks to the Romans, preserved through the Middle Ages, rediscovered in the Renaissance, and continue to inspire artists, writers, and thinkers today. They are truly immortal tales, not because they are old, but because they remain eternally relevant. Perhaps tonight, somewhere in the world, a parent is telling a child about the brave heroes of old, a teacher is explaining the origins of the constellations, or a storyteller is sharing these ancient wisdom tales with a new generation. In this way, the great chain of tradition continues unbroken from the ancient world to our own. The Greek creation myth teaches us that creation is not a single event, but an ongoing process. From chaos comes cosmos. From cosmos comes new chaos. And from that chaos, new and greater order emerges. This is the pattern not just of the universe, but of every human life, every civilization, every great endeavor. We are all children of this cosmic family, inheritors of both divine spark and mortal limitation. In us flows the blood of titans and Olympians, the creativity of the gods, and the endurance of humanity. We carry within ourselves both the potential for great creation and the responsibility for wise stewardship of what we create. The questions posed by Greek creation myth remain as urgent today as they were millennia ago. How do we create order from chaos? How do we pass wisdom to the next generation? How do we balance power with justice? How do we find meaning in a universe that contains both beauty and suffering, creation and destruction? Today, our telescopes peer deeper into space than the ancient Greeks could ever imagine. Our understanding of the physical cosmos has grown beyond their wildest dreams. Yet their mythological cosmos remains as compelling as ever, because it addresses not just how the universe began, but why it matters that it began at all. The same starlight that illuminated the ancient Greek theaters where these stories were first performed now illuminates our modern world. We are connected across the millennia by shared wonder, shared questions, and shared hope. The Greek creation myth is not just their story, it is our story, humanity's story, the story of consciousness itself awakening in the cosmos. The Greeks had a word, telos, meaning not just the end of something, but its completion, its purpose, its fulfillment. The creation of the cosmos was not merely the beginning of existence, but the fulfillment of the universe's potential for meaning, beauty, and order. In the same way, each human life, each act of love and creation helps fulfill the cosmos's deepest purpose. As we conclude our journey through the Greek creation myth, remember that you are part of this continuing story. Every choice you make, every act of creativity, every moment of courage or compassion adds a new verse to the epic poem that began with the first stirring in the primordial void. The cosmos that emerged from chaos, through the struggles of titans and the wisdom of Olympians, continues to evolve through each of us. We are not mere observers of the creation story. We are its latest chapter, its newest characters, its ongoing authors. In Greek, the word arche means both beginning and ruling principle. The beginning of the cosmos was also the establishment of its fundamental principles. And so, as we end our tale, we remember that every ending is also a beginning. Every completion opens new possibilities, and the great story of creation continues in each new dawn, each new birth, each new dream that dares to bring order from chaos and meaning from mystery. From all of us who have shared this ancient wisdom with you tonight, thank you for joining us on this timeless journey. May the wisdom of the ages guide your steps. May the fire of Prometheus burn bright in your heart. And may you always remember that you carry within yourself the spark of the divine creativity that first spoke light into the darkness and called the cosmos into being. Until we meet again in the realm of story and myth, where all truths are eternal and all endings are new beginnings, farewell.